a year ago. So the cost of protein continues to be very expensive and is a challenge for us. And that is due to several things. First off, very high levels of inflation in the United States. I know you in the Europe sort of laugh at our levels, but it still continues to be a problem. Lack of supply, feed costs in the United States. Hopefully we're going to get some relief on that later in the year. Energy costs continues to be a real challenge. And then, of course, other supply chain issues. We're not going to see any relief from that until we address those kinds of issues. So it continues to be very challenging. In addition, one of the big challenges we face is the grocery retailers continue to have a major problem with staffing both their warehouses and their grocery stores. And if you can't get the product on the shelf, the customer can't buy the product. So that is another concern we have. And I know the grocery retailers are working on that problem, but continuing to staff jobs in the United States is a real challenge. We have 2 job openings for every person looking for a job here. So it's a major challenge. So.
Wow. And do you know what? I think we're seeing that across companies in the group in other countries as well on varying levels, that recruitment issue that's kind of impacting on all levels from where you're delivering to right up to you actually being able to recruit yourselves in the businesses. So how are you approaching some of these challenges at the moment? What's Boulder Sausage's approach?
Well, first off, we're working on the efficiencies in our production process. We invested $450,000 in new equipment last year just to upgrade the existing equipment and to continue to try to increase our efficiencies so we can try to reduce our cost of goods, at least from a labor and that standpoint. We have both our brokers and our merchandisers in the grocery stores, and we're trying to assist the staff there in stocking their shelves and making sure that our product is on the shelf. We're also pursuing other new product lines, trying to expand out into other product lines, and then also continuing to try to pursue acquisitions and mergers. Growing our business organically is very difficult. And so we believe we put a high priority on both new product lines and new acquisitions and mergers.
Yeah, and that's what I've been seeing from other companies across the group, that mergers and acquisitions conversation is coming up more and more. So I'm expecting that hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more activity for the group in that space as we go through the year. So I'm going to bring on Kevin. So Kevin, obviously you're in the construction industry in the UK. So what are you experiencing as you've come into 2023?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, 2022 was sort of very challenging with labour. Labour was a big problem, or a lack of. But that seems to have sort of steadied off towards the end of last year. So labour does seem to be more available now. And obviously, inflation. I mean, obviously we've had inflation of 10% plus across the board, but more specifically, like steel, plasterboard products have been like 20-30% price increases. So that has been incredibly challenging. I mean, we managed to sort of navigate a lot of that by having fluctuation clauses in a lot of our contracts now. So we've negated that this year. I mean, it's the tender line has been incredibly buoyant that part of last year and into this year. We're ready to sort of procure some nice new projects. So it's looking very good. And we're looking at some acquisitions as well. So that's I think the market's going to be right for that this year.
Yeah. So when you're talking about procurement and new tenders coming around, is this new projects or is this a bottleneck, off the back of the last 2 years, or what's the feel in the market at the moment?
I think it's a mix of everything. There's certainly been some sort of pent-up projects that people have put on the back burner with COVID and Brexit, inflation. So there's a lot of those projects, they seem to be released now. So a lot of projects have been put on hold for a couple of years, seem to be coming out. Certainly there's a lot more movement in the in the high-end retail, which is all blue chip companies which are sort of spending some vast sums of money on some new flagship stores. So they're looking good. Existing. I mean, we've targeted Premier League football clubs for the last couple of years, and that's looking very good for us as well at the moment. So we've got some substantial projects coming online this year. So that's going to be going forward for the next 2 or 3 years. So the pipeline is looking very good.
And football clubs in the UK for you, you've got a great track record, haven't you? You've got some well-established relationships and projects you've done previously in that.
And they seem to be inflation-proof. I mean, the money coming into the the Premier League clubs, they're certainly not too bothered about inflation. So it's a good opportunity for us. So we've worked with football clubs for over 20 years. So it's we've got a good reputation in that area. That's an area that we're looking to do a lot more this year.
Brilliant. And any exciting plans that you can share for Gilt Prime yet, or is everything still under wraps, under procurement?
I mean, regarding the acquisitions, obviously we've got to keep that under wraps until they're further down the line. We've got some nice big projects. We can't quite announce what they are yet, but they'll be announced over the next coming weeks, maybe days. But so we've got some. This year is looking like another very busy year. I mean, last year was we had an increased revenue last year, our largest turnover year last year, and we're expecting to do more than that this year again. So looking very good.
Yeah, and it's been a different kind of busy I've experienced from how I've felt. The pandemic years were a different kind of busy to this year, but busy is always the answer in terms of where are we at, what are we doing, but it comes with different types of busy.
After during COVID, it was firefighting, fixing problems, coming up with solutions so you can carry on. But obviously the downside of that was all the projects got delayed. There's no getting away from that. If we had a 9-month project with the COVID, it was taking 12 months. So I mean, it was sort of fighting fires, but getting agreements with the clients, which all ended up amicable. But it's just delays the project, and it's a better sort of problem to have now when you're sort of trying to work out how you're going to cope with the additional workload, which is a much better problem to have.
We'd rather be that side of the problem, wouldn't we? I'm going to bring in Mark as well. So Mark is from GS Contracts, and first of all, congratulations on GS Contracts. I know you've now recently been spending a lot more time there, and your roles evolved and broadened. So tell us a little bit more, Mark, from your perspective, what you're seeing within your industry at the moment, and also within GS Contracts.
I think there is still a lot of opportunity, as Kevin was saying. I think we're finding that, contrary to popular belief, I think there's still a market out there. Certainly from GS's perspective, the restaurateur, the hospitality market, the coffee shop, the high-end coffee shops, and the boutique eateries are still pushing ahead, to be perfectly honest, and there does still appear to be quite a healthy market. I think GS more than doubled turnover last year, from sort of 3 million to 8, and this year they have on the board and fixed before the end of June another £4 million worth of work. So they're well on track for another bumper year. I think it's like anything, pipelines key. Obviously, as you know, we also look at Geisha here as well. Ian unfortunately had to go out, and we were just looking at the moment, and currently we've actually got £11.5 million worth of work secured for this year, about 9.5 of which is for completion by the end of July.
Wow.
So I'm not really sure how we've done that, but suddenly, obviously, the first half of this year is looking quite busy.
I'm sure you've done it because you're just amazing at what you do. So,
In all honesty, I think you cast your nets, and sometimes you hit the right shoal, don't you? But what we're finding is we're getting a lot of relationship work coming through, and again, in the commercial office sector, we're finding people are looking at sort of flex offices and the serviced office, and where the marketplace in the commercial sector in London has changed. So people aren't interested in having an office 5 days a week. They want an office that they can come into and go out of. And I believe from a cost point of view, they get the landlords are getting £400 a square foot for that kind of office, as opposed to the 200 for a traditional office in Belgravia. So it is looking really, really buoyant. I'm sure Kevin's touched on it. I think actually the bigger issues, I think, are going to be lead-in times for materials and quality staff. And you know.
Yeah.
And
how are you overcoming some of those, Mark? What's your plan to overcome some of those? We're seeing this. I mean, in education, as an example, I get asked at least a few times a week for staff in construction or qualifications and upskilling in construction. And one of the challenges they have is not just only find the people, getting them qualified and trained quick enough to the standards, quick enough to be able to support the industry, and the types of jobs that they're actually needed for has been quite challenging. So how are you overcoming some of those challenges?
Again, just trying to plan ahead, obviously making sure that the staff you've got you retain, and I think retention and is actually quite important. I think construction's a funny one with qualifications, because up until quite recently, health and safety regulations in particular had a hierarchy of which qualification was paramount, whereas now CDM's changed and it's competency first, and qualification is something to back competency up. So it actually changes what the parameters you're using, and it's becoming harder to find people who are competent as opposed to people who have a qualification. And so in some ways it's almost a reversal and going back to traditional values, which is getting people who are time served, who have come through a journey, who have taken the steps through a business or through a career progression, rather than someone who has just appeared with a ticket and has suddenly gone in at mid-level management. So it really is quite hard to find applicable training as well, because most branches of construction are very niche. I'm sure Kevin, again, will say, we find that quite a lot of sort of the management and supervision are from a joinery background, and that's quite good, because the skills that you get from those trades do tend to lend themselves to reading drawings and to a technical approach. But there are just skills gaps everywhere. So, plumbers, heating engineers. We're starting our own electrical division to carry out our own electrical work, and obviously probably heating and the mechanical side will have to be next, because it's the only way to control your supply chain and to stop costs spiraling and to bring better value to our clients. And I think our turnover at the moment is showing the benefit of being able to bring better value to our client by in-housing a lot of the more expensive elements. And I think that's really, certainly our direction at the moment.
And that may be, again, where mergers and acquisitions might be forming part of the conversation.
I think that's absolutely key, to be honest, is our model. And starting with Geisha and GS and other businesses that we're trying to look at, is exactly that. It's trying to capture an internal supply chain, so that if we're going to have a supply chain that's going to be taking a considerable portion of our turnover, it makes better sense for both us and for our customers for it to all sit under one umbrella, because obviously we can control that, and we can provide a better service and a better sort of financial offering. Without mergers and acquisition, without organic and inorganic growth within the businesses, I don't think the year's turnover and any future would be quite so easy.
Yeah. And I think it's that collaboration, it's meeting customer expectations, isn't it? You know, it's all that piece, and also cutting down time to deliver a service or a product by actually having all that in-house. It just allows the time management to be facilitated better. So I can definitely.
Oddly, we are actually getting work coming to the table where speed to start is becoming a winning factor.
Yeah.
As opposed to price, which is
Really?
quite unusual. But some items, some of the joinery items have got such long lead times now.
Yeah.
And sort of critical windows and some of the other things, sort of 16, 18 weeks. Some of the M&E HVAC stuff, that people are thinking, well, if you can get it to me on site in 3 months, then I'd rather that than wait 6. And that's bizarre. I've never known that. That's something new. I've not come across before.
Yeah, quite a change in customer behaviour then for you. I mean, going back to your skills and education point, because obviously that's the bit I love. You know, we're doing in the UK a project at the moment called Local Skills Improvement Plans, and that's engaging with businesses to understand the skills they need. I think your point about skills and qualifications is really relevant. There's a big difference between skills and qualifications. Skills are what we actually need. Qualifications is the rubber stamp to say to an employer they have these skills, if that makes sense. And there's projects across the UK, for example, skills boot camps that are looking at things differently, perhaps to how we would have done a few years ago. And you know, you can see some differences of approach coming through the education system in response to employer need and employer demand. So there is a huge amount going on. And I think going back to that point of busy, I think this is where it is. There's a lot of change and a lot of movement and a lot of moving parts at the moment that I think post-pandemic in particular, trying to knit all those back together to get the economy moving, get social mobility, get people in jobs, get the right skills in jobs and businesses moving has become a really, really big priority for everybody at the moment.
I would say for us very much this January feels like the start of a non-COVID era.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
You know, I think there's no sort of the hangovers and everything else and the scrabbling for work and the inflationary effects that COVID caused onto some of our projects. And all of those have gone. So we're working in a marketplace that's known now. We know the marketplace. We know the pricing. We know. So it just feels like we are now back onto a level playing field where there is a pipeline, where there is work, and where most of the parameters are actually known. You know, and obviously any Brexit kind of issues as well are long past. We know what they are now. You know, so it does almost feel like day one, doesn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin, are you experiencing that? Does it feel like finally we're no longer talking about the pandemic and a bit more like normal business, whatever that looks like nowadays? But is that how it feels for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole industry is buoyant, everybody's busy. So I think it's but it does seem like labour seems to be coming through now. Like 6 months ago, you speak to a recruitment company, if you got a QS, they'd be laughing down the phone at you. But now, I mean, I'm inundated with emails and so I think the labour seems to have evened itself out now. So I think it's we've certainly turned the corner in that respect. And the price rises they seem to have stopped now. I think there was legitimate price rises, but I think lots of people were jumping on the bandwagon and putting their prices up.
Definitely, that was definitely in the main an engineered situation. I'm convinced people were keeping things in warehouses to justify price rising.
Yeah. But that's certainly leveled out now, and we're seeing some price reductions coming through now. So which is great for us.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're hoping to benefit on as work goes to site, and suddenly we're delivering things cheaper than we'd hoped for a change.
And what about you, Jim? Is it a similar experience for you? Are you feeling like this is finally the pandemic years are over and feels a bit more like a normal year?
Well, it's getting better. Unlike the rest of you, we are not seeing any price decreases. In fact, we just received another 12% increase in the cost of casings. So we're continuing to see price increases in our industry, and we've not seen any price reductions. As I said earlier, the biggest issue for us is just the cost of the pork commodity itself, and we're not seeing any reductions in that. So we're hoping that later in the year we'll get some relief in the feed sector, and that will definitely help the producers. But we're definitely, it's not as bad as 21 and 22. And the further we get away from it, the better we feel. But I'm not as I don't feel the same as Mark and Kevin. So it's still a real challenge.
Yeah,
so.
Brilliant. I get where completely where you are, and it's interesting how different sectors and different industries and what's happening in them, and even different countries and what's happening as well. So I'm going to bring David on so we could find out a little bit more from David what's happening in the taxi vertical. So hi David, how are you?
Very good morning, afternoon, wherever you're watching this. Pleasure to be here.
So how's things in your industry at the moment? How's your 2023 got off to a start?
I concur with what Mark's just said. It does feel like the beginning of a new era. No one's talking about COVID. Flu is back. Life's pretty to normal, isn't it? I mean, the last few years have been very, we couldn't plan for anything. It was in lockdown, out of lockdown, in, out, shake it all about. It was up and down. And obviously, when we're in lockdown, drivers don't earn. We're in the taxi trade, obviously. Although we did have some contracts that kept us going, we're viewed as key workers during that era. So NHS contracts, school contracts, we were still mobile. But of course, a lot of that depended on how the actual driver felt, in terms of COVID, did he feel safe, etc. So a lot went and did delivery driver because it's obviously less likely to catch COVID from an Amazon parcel than you would from a paying passenger. But since then, we then hit the recruitment problem as we came out of COVID, shortage of workers, a bit of Brexit in there as well. So we put a lot of resources, we cut back on marketing, made ourselves lean and mean. So actually last year we just broke even, but the fruits of that are paying dividends for the last 3 months now as we've got more drivers on board. We've changed our technology, a lot of investment went in that, and changed our model slightly as well. So we've got a better running a system now, which cuts down dead mileage. We've seen fuel increases, obviously, at the pumps, peaking at around £2 a litre here in the UK for diesel. That has been coming down rapidly over the last couple of weeks as well, which is obviously margins and means we don't have to increase rates and fares in a cost of living crisis. So things are looking good. We've returned to profitability again, making money again, and driver numbers are going up. So we're feeling very happy about 2023. I don't think we're going to see those dark days of COVID again. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so you're going into this year with a positive vibe. There's definitely been a more positive vibe coming into this year. I've definitely sensed that from talking to all the other business owners. So what are your plans for this year then? Anything exciting on the horizon for ADT?
Well, we've got lots of things in the pipeline. We're expanding our fleets. We've rebranded now. ADT is dead. It's now Take Me. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Always coming branding.
We're kind of putting everyone together to create one network across the UK. So we obviously have the MBH companies ourselves here in Leicestershire. You've got Gary Marshall down in Farnborough, and you've got Intercity as well over at Stoke, all growing again. But we're actually upscaling and sort of streamlining our back end. So we're sharing resources across those companies, which brings in efficiencies and knowledge as well. So that's helping. And on the wide scale, we're also working with other companies across the UK under the Take Me brand to create this network. And we've just been released on LinkedIn this very afternoon that Take Me as a network across the UK is now officially the third biggest network in the UK. So we're number 3 in the UK now. So in terms of fleets. So of course we compete with Uber, but in most towns now we're actually working with Uber because Uber is becoming more of an aggregator, an app of things.
Yep.
So on the Uber app you can book groceries and coaches and trains and taxis. So they're kind of moving away from operating and now just becoming like an Amazon app, if you like. So yeah, things are looking good. So we're very excited for the year ahead. And obviously we gain a lot of knowledge from the network here at MBH as well. Although we're in different industries, Jim there with his sausages and Mark and Kevin in construction, there's a lot of knowledge that we can share with each other, which does help, you know, when you're running a business to have that know-how.
Yeah, we certainly get a lot of insights from each other. I've experienced that. You know, and understanding what's going on in other industries has helped, you know, even inform, for example, in our business, some of our curriculum, what industries to start looking at, you know, that need, where there's a great need, and what that need, the key part I've found is it's what that need looks like from my perspective that's been really interesting. You know, in education, you could look at all the data and statistics in the world, but when you can actually talk to business owners that are in the thick of it, you know, you get a much better, more detailed understanding of the real need, not the perceived need, perhaps, that data might provide us with. So tell me, you talked there a little bit about the coming together, the collaboration between yourself and the other taxi companies. You know, how's that been working then? How's that evolved? Because I know that was part of your plan. I remember when you first come in, you were saying, we're going to go into competition with Uber. We're going to build this team. We're going to pull companies together. It's brilliant to see actually now you and Uber working together as how it's ended up in the, but how's it worked with the companies and the other companies that you're working with? What kind of benefits have you seen from that pulling together?
Yeah, again, well, knowledge and shared experience is vital, but the whole industry needed a bit of consolidation. You've got these legacy firms, little backstreet taxi outfits, probably still doing it by radio, pen and paper, playing chess with cars. So what we've done, we brought the marketing know-how. We're quite good at social media. We've brought the branding, because really we're a tech company now that just happens to move cars around, because we don't own the fleets. They're normally driver owners, part of this gig economy. So we've done Uber backwards, really. So we controlled the fleets, and then we've added the technology, which enables us all to work under one banner and one brand. Because a lot of these small taxi companies, what they all do great is they have to make money to survive, whereas Uber has, I don't think it's made a penny of profit to date yet. But what we didn't have was that branding across the UK or the technology to streamline our services and make us those efficiencies, and whereas now we can cut down on our emissions because we're using technology to work out, well, if that car is going down to Heathrow, there's a company there we can plug into to bring a job back, you know, so there's less dead mileage. So that's good. And we're sharing knowledge now on electric cars. You know, we've started to introduce those to the fleets. They're working well in some areas. Some areas, I've just come back from the southwest, Truro, Plymouth, Somerset, and so on, and really they haven't got the infrastructure down there yet. But I mean, when that comes, they can learn from the guys in the Midlands that have been running electric fleets. So yeah, it's just exciting. And as I say, we've sort of grown rapidly, and we're now number 3 in the UK. So and that's down to the brand and everyone working as a team with all that experience. You know, the good thing is we're not ran by bankers or accountants. We're run on sheer grit and making decisions on a whim sometimes, which comes with experience backed behind us. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, there's definitely a resilience to small and medium business owners, and how we respond to challenges, I think, is quite unique actually in the group. So you've touched on so many things there that are interesting for me and probably interesting for people watching. So I'll start with the electric vehicle side, because you've just touched on that. So obviously environmental, social and governance is a huge thing. It's a very investor-led term, ESG, but actually what in real terms this is moving away from more of a role where we're saying like 5% gets donated to a charity, to actually thinking about the 100% of a business and how it operates, how it works, how it's governed, and how that is positively impacting the world and the environment and the people and communities that we all live and work in. So for investors, if they ever wanted to question our approach to ESG when we use the term, this is what we're talking about. And the side effect of that is, impact positively on business as well, with some of the measures put in place. So what kind of things are you seeing in your industry with around environmental and social that, is a upcoming trend, something you're getting into your plans as you move forward as a business?
I mean, the obvious one there is electric cars, but before I touch on that, a big thing through COVID, we all learned to do this, talk on Zoom and have meetings on that. So internally, I spend probably half my week now here in my home office talking to our companies around the UK on Zoom. So I'm not actually moving from my seat. Might not be good for my heart rate and my health because I'm walking so much. But I'm also not using so much fuel traveling around meeting people. So there's that. Now on well-being, it's something when we were very small, I didn't have time to consider how drivers were feeling or how staff around me were feeling. You just don't have time. You're bombarded with problems, and I probably wouldn't notice that actually my colleague was going through a rough time, maybe at home, or or having sort of mental health issues, or was stressed about something. Whereas now we're bigger, I've got time now to invest in that side of things as well, staff wellbeing. Although, I don't do it personally because I'm not in all those offices, but we have people that are looking after people, and the drivers as well. I mean, drivers, we used to just go, right, hire and fire approach almost, whereas now we've recognised drivers are actually our customers as well, because they're self-employed, a lot of them. So we now, in each site, whether that be Birmingham, Stoke-on-Trent, or Truro, or Plymouth, or Darlington, we now have driving managers, and their job is just to look after the well-being of the driver, and have time to sit and have a chat and be a pair of ears, and in some cases give them a cuddle if needed. The cuddle goes a long way, and so yeah, I do refer to them as cuddle machines, because everyone needs to be heard and listened to. So that is something we've changed. And obviously the obvious thing everyone always asks is electric cars. We have started implementing them. Most of our fleet now has moved away from just purely diesel. Most of the fleet is now hybrid. And obviously we've taken a step further and introduced electric vehicles. That's brought problems itself. There's something called range stress, especially drivers, because you can never plan your day. 1 minute you could be dropping somebody off at the hairdressers, the next minute the next job gets fired off and you're off to Heathrow 110 miles away, or a long journey. So you then get stress range, depending on the weather. If it's cold, you lose some of the efficiencies of electric. So our systems yet aren't very good at predicting, will that vehicle actually make it, because in the UK, everyone's on different networks and different, when you charge a car, if you've got Tesla, you've got your own network, but if you have a Volkswagen or an MG, different places, and will those charging points work when you get there? And none of the networks seem to talk to each other very well. So the infrastructure to improve. The range is getting better on vehicles, but if we had the infrastructure and the data, then we'd be able to do better things with our systems and plan routes better, so you don't get this range anxiety. I don't know whether you drive an electric car, but most people that do are just doing short journeys, maybe no more than 100 miles locally. They work fine for that. In our industry, you could be doing up to 400 or 500 miles a day. So obviously you're going to need to charge a couple of times on that. So that's the problem. But technology is getting better all the time, and the infrastructure is getting better. So as that gets better, we'll be expanding our range.
Yeah. I've got a hybrid. So yeah, didn't quite make the leap last time to full electric, but next time I think that's the way I'm going to go. But it is an adjustment, isn't it? It is an adjustment in terms of your practices, your behaviour, your working practices, planning your day. So yeah, that's a really, really interesting point you make. And the other one that you touched on, sorry, I'm keeping you on a long time, but it's interesting. So you're interesting guy. You talked about the gig economy, and obviously we had a guest speaker come in and talk to the companies in the group about the gig economy. I think we all use it, but we wanted to look at how we could use it more effectively, or the areas that we haven't thought of in the gig economy. It was one of the biggest growing economies over the last few years. I think obviously the last few years accelerated the growth of that economy. But is it something you use a lot in your business?
Yeah, I've been using it for quite a while actually. Whether it's we have people answering calls in Pakistan, which are through it's kind of gig economy, web designers, people that do our SEO, even HR. Really, we don't have a HR department, but we take advice. And there's some very good websites now, because even when we've been doing our own technology, I'm not a programmer or I can't really manage those builds of those apps, but there's plenty of people there that have that knowledge all around the world, and it seems to have accelerated a lot over the last few years. People are thinking, well, actually, do I need to go and work a 9 till 5? I mean, everyone's got a talent, which you can sell yourself on a website, and I know people that have been made redundant, and at first it was a fear, but all of a sudden they think, well, actually, I've spent 10 years doing, I don't know, accounts or web designing or whatever. And actually, if I just put a listing, I'm getting inquiries, and they find themselves busier, and they can work around their own time and their own lifestyles. So, yeah, I think more and more people are kind of setting up as one-man bands or little businesses doing this. And it's great because you don't have to stick to your local town anymore. You can go worldwide. It's digital, or even if it's just a plumber, you can shop around a bit better because the information's all there on the internet.
Yeah, I think it's been a huge part of accessing those expert skills in businesses we're missing. Economy, there's been savings by using the gig economy. We found exactly the same, but also I think, like you say, people, it's a good thing.
Yeah, but you could also do it in reverse. So I mean, there'd be times a year which our marketing department, because we have some internal staff in marketing, that they might be a bit busy, but there'll be times of the year when they're less busy. So at that point, you can actually market their services out. I know we're a taxi transport company, but we've got that talent. We can actually think, well, actually, they're going to be quiet, but to keep them busy, advertise them out, and they could end up doing, I know, some social media or marketing for somebody in a different sector. So it does work both ways as well.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that emerges over the next few years. And certainly is becoming more of an integral part of business. And we're seeing younger people wanting to go into the gig economy. So I'm just welcoming Paul and Maria. And good to see you both. Paul, yours is a little bit noisy behind, so I'll start with you first, and then I'll move over to Maria. So how's the start to 2023 for you and Academy One?
It's not been too bad, thank you. I think we've managed to secure some ESOL learning, which is quite good. We've got 50 starts this month, which is quite cool. And then we've got some new traineeships coming on, and we're just trying to get it all up and running, and hopefully we can. I think we won about £80,000 worth of funding for that. And if it goes well, then obviously we can go forward from there. But generally, we've been through a lot of remodelling the last year or so. So come looking at the way the company has evolved, where we've been just one course, i.e. like study program, and bringing on an apprentice program over the last year. But now we're looking to spread our wings a bit, so we haven't got all our money tied up in one project.
Yeah, so diversification then for you as you move into 2023, and a focus on diversifying your offer.
Yeah, and I think we've looked at a lot of avenues. It's always, and yourself, especially with how tough the education industry is becoming and becoming more stringent. So, it's not making sure that we get the right funding, it's making sure we deliver it correctly at the same time as well. We're always fighting on both fronts regarding learners participating and being engaged. At the same time, the tutors being able to, carry on and making sure the delivery is put in its right framework. So it's been these changes, and hopefully by the end of this year, we can see more. It's not about the profits; it's a more rounded company that we can feel that we're not just reliant on one service for financial.
Yeah, and being part of the group, Paul, because obviously you came in, I think roughly just slightly pre-pandemic or during the pandemic. But being part of the group, have you and your business seen benefits, and what do they look like from being part of a wider network of companies?
I think for me, it's released me a little bit more, because it's made me the confidence to bring people in from, if you want to call it, under me, which I don't like to do the term of that, but I think trying to explain it that. So it's freed me up to do different things within the company, and having a smaller team under me running different aspects of the company. I think one of the things by doing that, we seem to have attracted some more knowledgeable people. We put into the right compliance stuff, and with this, I suppose with a younger model below me, it's got more drive and ambition. So it gives me a chance to look at other things. The MBH idea is formally been good for me, because I was all them things I spoke about, I used to do them all. So it's been a challenge not to relinquish, but a challenge to find the right people to do it. It ain't cheap to do it that way, but long term it would be better off, because it obviously helps me out to decide what I want to do when I get to my future.
Yeah, we hear it a lot, to be honest, about the conversation around how do you move from being in your business to being on your business, moving from operational to strategic thinking. So it's really great to hear that that's the benefit that you're gathering from being in the group, and how positive that is on the business and the people within it. And I can hear you talking there about succession planning, and how the future looks and how the future team is evolving in your business. So that's absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Paul. And Maria, over to you. How are things over with you guys? Anything going on? How's 2023 started for KS?
Yeah, so 2023 does seem like a really, really different year. It's just listening into the chats that COVID seems, everything's on the back foot now, and 23 seems and is going to be a really exciting year for us. So we've currently merged with one of the other companies in the group, and there's a few reasons for that. So we currently access different funding streams. So we are now a bigger, stronger team, and we're able to give learners a clear path. So we're working in the health and social care sector, which is, one of the sectors that's quite short on the staffing level point of view. So we're helping learners to find roles. We're helping workplaces find learners, or staff rather, to join them. So from the different funding streams we're able to start learners off at their starting point, and then help them to make progress, and also helping the workplace to upskill their staff. So maybe if a carer wants to start in a role, we can give the learner the level 2, the level 3, up to a level 5, so that they can progress from a carer to a senior to a mentor, manager. So just with that funding in place, we're helping in the health and social care sector to get learners and staff placed, and also so that they can gain that knowledge in their roles.
Yeah, and I've been quite close to supporting KS and Logistica with coming up with a strategy around how a collaborative approach could really benefit both of your businesses and move forward. And I think what's been great about it was the accessing of all the different skills, all the different resources, all the different knowledge that you're now able to bring together, which is going to make the businesses stronger and better as you move through 2023, and with a better service offering as well for your customers.
Yeah, and bringing all those strengths to one table is absolutely brilliant, and we can just move things forward. So we had our Ofsted last year, very, very much focused on quality outcomes for learners, but just listening to what David was saying from a wellbeing point of view, very focused from a staff wellbeing point of view. We've looked at all areas of the business, such as annual leave, support packages, and so on. And the tutors are very focused on the wellbeing with the learner. And I think it's just key. It's just a key area that we need to be looking at.
It's fantastic to hear, because this is that social element of the business. You're supporting creating jobs, you're supporting industries where there's a high need around well-being. And I know, because I work closely with you, that you've put a huge amount of time and investment into a whole well-being strategy, actually, and delivering that across the business. So tell us a bit about the drivers behind that, and why well-being went really high on your agenda.
So we focused on well-being pre-COVID. So we've always had a well-being plan in place with the team, but especially through COVID, when everybody was working from home, as people felt alone, and needed that extra support and guidance, and I think from just ensuring everybody's got a good work-life balance, they feel part of the team. So we don't have many or any staff that leave, because they're all really happy with the support. They're listened to, and they know that they're part of the team, and the work-life balance is fab, to be honest. And so through COVID, we naturally had more of a focus on it. So the wellbeing champions, such as mental health wellbeing champions, benefit wellbeing champions, and so on. So the champions will look at different areas, and they will all focus on one area. Any support services that are needed for staff, any one-to-ones and so on, those champions are there to make sure that every staff member's needs are met, and that's naturally carried on, and is still running. It's just everybody can access the support that they need.
And it sounds like it's been a lot around recruitment, retention, attraction of staff. And I think the expectations of people in businesses, quite rightly, has changed, and people do expect a bit of a different work-life balance, which has led me on to touch on another point, and David also touched on this point. We've moved into a different world of working, with remote working and office working, but how's that changed? How's that changed? And has there been any challenges for you around these new ways of working that you've had to overcome?
So we were like most other people. we reverted to pure online learning. And I think what we struggled with is we wanted to support our learners more than we were able to. It's sometimes different with different people, supporting over Teams and Zoom than actually seeing learners. So we've obviously, prior to and at that point, made sure that wellbeing plans were in place for learners, and we are actually now able to be out seeing learners, and so we have a blended learning where tutors can see the learners on screen or out in the settings. So I think one of the most difficult areas we're being able to offer as much support as we could to the learners, because I think people can be more open in person sometimes than on a screen. So
it's definitely a process. Sorry to cut over. It's definitely a process of where does that balance now sit between that hybrid world. I mean, I don't know, David, have you had any challenges or any real benefits to this new hybrid working that are benefiting your organisation?
Yeah, I think efficiencies with people. With us being able to model the working day around people's lives, it brings better productivity, I think. And certainly for me, I've always been a night owl, so I could work, burn the midnight oil, and you're not under pressure, because. And also the technology. The old days, you all needed to be in at the same time to communicate with each other. You pick up the phone, whereas now you've got some great apps like Slack and so on. That mean you can get the answers to your questions quite quickly, but in people's own time. You can also post information on different apps. So I think it's great to go into an office, and it's great to sit where you get a sense of where people are when you're sat with them. I mean, we're all sat here on the Zoom now. It's quite two-dimensional, but actually, when you're in an office, you get a broader 3D. So you can pick up how people are feeling, and you can share ideas and so on. But then if you're working from home, you get so much more done. So I love the way we work these days, rather than having to drive into a multi-story office block in the centre of town, park the car, and do that. It's great. I mean, the downside of this, of course, is when you're on holiday, you don't you're looking at your phone constantly. You can work from a laptop. I mean, that's the only downside. It does kind of get you 24/7. So, and you have to be quite disciplined not to get involved in work when you're on holiday, especially when you're running businesses like ourselves.
The healthy work-life balance.
Yeah,
it's ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. I mean, we've had similar things. There's been huge advantages to it, but there's some challenges that are emerging. For example, the amount of platforms we've got in businesses. So I'm starting to see businesses talking more about digital. I don't even say transformation. It's almost like streamlining, because there's just so many things out. Everything's pinging at you all the time. How is that, then affecting the productivity when your team are constantly distracted by the next notification that's popping up on your phone or your email? So there's certainly, I think, going to be some, and they're behavioural, aren't they? They're behavioural skills that we need to be thinking about, how to learn how to put your phone down, for example, as David said, for a bit, to focus on the task in hand. So it's going to be interesting to see how that emerges. But I'm with David. I think this world is better. I think there's a lot more flexibility. Yes, there's some things we still need. Face-to-face really helps with relationships, but once those relationships are established, online is quite an efficient way to be.
I'd like to add to that is that I think that people are choosing jobs now where there's more home working than people saying they've got to be in the office. And as you said, the flexibility. So people are getting a choice that if they leave a job and they can get working or split working, they seem to be taking that job where if some jobs are still demanding you go to the office, they seem to lose the applicant to join the job. especially with, as you say, as David said, with Zoom and that. But today, like, it is nice to be in the office. Like, I'm in the office today. It's good. It's quite thinkable, but trying to get the balance right is a difficult one now after COVID, I think.
Yeah, and different type of people in your business need different things, don't they? You know, if you've got apprentices you're training up, you might want to spend more time with them to help them. But somebody that's very experienced can probably be really good at time management and organising their own diary in their own day. So we are seeing different things across the business. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, I think another pitfall is, of course, the temptation is to have your phone on work. So you might have a bottle of wine at night or something. I've seen plenty of drunken texts from colleagues and myself where you think, "Oh no, delete that before anyone sees that." So that
just got to open a dodgy invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time, and I think businesses have seen the benefits for a bit more open-mindedness to how we work and how the future of work is going to look. Right, guys, I'm gonna drop you all off. Thank you so much for your time. That's been absolutely fantastic and great to hear all the insights. So in summary, 2023, everybody is excited about. Mergers and acquisitions are high on the agenda. Flexible working seems to be something that everybody's continuing with. Pipelines are getting stronger, and we generally have a very positive and upbeat feel about 2023. So thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions, please do go on our website at www.mbhcorporation.com and be able to drop us a message on there. Be happy to answer if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your time today and all our participants. And stay safe, and we shall see you soon. Thank you.